Hi, it's Trent from Speak2Read. Just finished a big day in the office here. Lots of clients and lots of families. And we were working through an assessment report today with a family and going through the results. And they were saying, like, everything you're saying makes so much sense. And now we really understand our child and how they learn and how they communicate. There are some things that are going on in how he speaks and expresses himself. And then, of course, a lot of stuff going on in the reading, writing, and spelling. And their child's in older grades, middle school, and they said something along the lines of like, why didn't anybody ever catch any of this? You know, because we're talking about a lot of the red flags that show up in the grammar and in the speech and things that would have been there in his speaking. And then as he gets into literacy, there were signs and things there too. And it's sort of like, why didn't anybody ever catch this? Why didn't anybody ever see it? And I was reflecting on that. And on the other side of the spectrum, there's a lot of students that I work with, you know, especially in the PUF program, who are 3 and 4 and 5 years old. And then a lot of kids who come to me and they're 6, and maybe there's still some things going on in their speech or in their grammar and their expressive language. Or maybe some kids who come in and they're around 6 years old and they're having a lot of difficulty acquiring letters. But I see a lot of kids younger as they're coming into the literacy, and I'm always saying things like, you know, they're really at risk for dyslexia, they're really at risk for delays in acquiring literacy. And a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I don't know, well, we'll see, or the school thinks it's going to play out, or, you know, this other therapist thinks that they'll probably get it and come along. And it's sort of like, it's really interesting. You know, at the one end of the spectrum, people are saying, like, why didn't anybody ever catch this? Why didn't anyone see the red flags? Why didn't anybody tell us? And then at the other end of the spectrum, I feel like I do a lot of time talking about the predictive power of some of the delays that we see and saying, like, you need to really be conscious about where literacy is going and where literacy is headed. And I recommend we get to start now and we do some like early intervention and do some more intensive things. And sometimes it seems tough to get people moving on that, you know, without sort of putting the fear of God into them and stuff. So it's really interesting to just sort of see how things go at both ends of the spectrum. That sometimes people are like, why didn't anyone tell us this? And at the other end, it's like, oh, I don't think it's going to be that bad, or I think it'll work out. And so it's just something interesting that I noticed today out of some of my conversations, and especially with this one family. And I think that's one thing that I'm really interested in, is identifying a lot of those red flags that point to the underlying disorder, the underlying source of difficulty, whether it's in speaking and expressive language and how you formulate your ideas, how you're using grammar, how you're starting to acquire letters, how you start to acquire sight words, some of your early writing and sentence structure, some of your early reading and decoding. There's signs and symptoms in all of that, because reading and writing really is written language, and so there's going to be signs and symptoms in the oral language too. And obviously when kids are 3 and 4, we can't predict that they are going to have difficulties, but we can really make sure we're going to work on those foundational skills that are going to make a difference. So that was just my musing from today after some of the work that I did and some of the students that I worked with, and I just felt like sharing it with all of you. And so if you feel like it's interesting and you want to share it further, I always appreciate that. Word of mouth and educating people and providing value is basically my marketing strategy. So it'll go as far as you take it. So I appreciate your help with that. And stay warm out there. It's not the best weather, but I think there's something great coming around the corner, looks like, in the forecast. And we all have Christmas to look forward to. So thanks for your time. See you soon.